Thank you, Kutch, for inviting me for this panel discussion. I think the slide before me, which Professor Seth is put upon in terms of transparency, accountability, and consumer education, these are golden words that we have learned over the period of years, in fact. If this is applicable on a service like broadband, which has been called a necessity by many today, and if this is somehow made available in a simple language to all consumers as a packaged commodity does, it is again a milestone achieved as far as this industry is concerned, this necessity is concerned. That today we are all dependent on broadband is a known factor. Whether it's urban, semi-urban, semi-rural, rural, I think everybody is today depending on either apps or direct connectivity. As Mr. Sharma in the morning said, in fact, that there is a huge difference between wireline and wireless. Technically, as a consumer organization also, we know that there is a huge difference and we have to move towards wireline actually, gradually and slowly, to improve upon the services, and I'm not going into technical details. So that is an aspect of servicing the consumer. The other aspect that is important for a consumer to understand and know is basically what is it that he or she is buying. Now, the TRA regulation mandates a basket full of products to be produced before the consumers, and very obviously that is related to right of choice, a very important right. But very often the wordings are tending to be something more confusing rather than and self-defeating rather than helping consumers. So while making a pitch for nutrition label for broadband services, one has to be very, very clear about the approach, about the utility, and about the transparency. Three factors that go hand to hand in terms of developing a concept which is brand new. I think few countries have experimented it. I don't really know whether they are fully operational, whether in Singapore or in the US. I don't think so. But first and foremost, we must remember that the last survey done by Consumer International proved that 79% of the people don't read label. That being the fact, we can't shy away from giving information. If you are not reading a label, then you're missing out and it's your own problem. It is a stage where both the industry, the advocacy groups, the regulator, the government, the ministry will say that we are providing you with all the information possible. It is up to you to read carefully. Right now you read things like expiry date, MRP. There are also certain things will be there which you will be guided through. And importantly, ultimately it is the responsibility of the consumer to actually make use of this year-long effort that Kutch is making along with IIT. How it's going to shape up, how it's going to be delivered, intermediary application, as Professor Seth mentioned. These are all learning processes for consumer organizations and for consumers. Importantly is the mission. And the mission is basically developing something which we all know is the need of the hour. Mr. Ravichandran just pointed out the host of data that is available on the TRI website, and I think many of you know that we have been doing the TRI survey and audit since 2006. We basically do procure from service providers a host of information and supply it to TRI on a regular basis every year. I think it stopped just last year. So there is a host of information, as Professor said is available. Now many app development, many site development do not take place basically because of lack of information. Here the scenario is absolutely different. You have loads of information available today with the service providers, with the regulator. How to use it is a critical question that needs to be raised. More importantly, we should recognize the fact that consumer has to read it swiftly and very, very intelligently. Because, as I said, the basket that is given has got some element, and pardon me the industry people for saying that, some element of misleading information. It's misleading basically because it is confusing. A word can be interpreted in many ways. It has been interpreted to suit the seller rather than the buyer in this particular case. And therefore, Mr. Sharma was giving the example of digital television. In fact, we are having a host of problems as a committee member there. I mean, digitalization has taken place. You are all connected through the right connections if you look at the sourcing. But a host of issues, there is information available in terms of label information also. Not this kind of label information that we are all dreaming of, but information provided by the service providers. But it's so misleading that you end up buying a bouquet which is actually not having 80% of the packages that you want, or actually having 80% purchase of the packages that you don't want. So this is the case study for us, and anybody doing a study on labeling should actually look at the digital television case. It's the right case, and we are still fighting it out because we thought it's a damn good case for consumers. They're going to get a damn good deal out of this. The TSPs are going to be ruled out. This local cable operator will not have his dadagiri. It's all boiled down to the same thing again in a different packaged commodity. You end up paying more. So, cutting it short, our consumer expectation is basically again coming down to the transparency level, where the label system should be actually telling the consumer in simple words what exactly is the product all about. It normally we attribute it to download speed, to latency, basic features that consumers understand while purchasing it, and it should be available online at multiple points. Most importantly, I think I'm going to repeat what Mr. Ramachandran said. The app should lead to those sites. It's app-based world, and no amount of information put on one particular cloud will give the consumer the information that he or she requires. Because deciphering that information, identifying that with the personal need is a difficult task. It's a very difficult task. So I think one has to hold the hands of the consumers in terms of apps leading way to certain basic information. We may do the clouding of that particular information, the crowding of that particular information at a later date, but stick to basics initially, get used to this particular concept. I think Cuts has picked up this particular topic very fast. While the world is developing it, we are developing it. We are very proud of that. And if we are able to develop something within a year's time, within a 1.5 years' time, I saw a very eager chairman, TRAI, ready to lap it up and only talk to the consumers. That's going to be really a good thing for us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ashim.